Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
Right on. So, I want to circle back to the illegal immigrants. Have you heard recently about what's going on in Aurora, Colorado, where the Venezuelan gangs have taken over a number of apartment buildings there? And I'll tell you what, a few years ago when we were first, again, we were mostly going down to Panama and stuff to see kind of the where the origin or where the funnel started of all these migrants that are coming up to through the country. And that's why we went specifically to the Darien Gap. And it's a pretty cool video if you haven't seen it, but we knew that eventually these people, enough of these guys, especially when you see these huge caravans and things, there's like 1 out of 100 is a woman with a child. Most of the people coming across are these young men. And I'm like, you know what? This is not going to end well. And I don't know if you know, there's a guy named Michael Yon. He actually goes all over the world and has done extensive research on this. And he's been talking about this isn't a migration. This is an invasion. And we've allowed, let's say there's 10 million illegals in here over the last 3 years. How many of them are young 20-year-old men who may or may not have jobs now? And if they're just sitting around and they see Americans with all sorts of stuff, they're going to come up with ways that they can take that stuff. And that's what these Venezuelan gangs, they've linked up with MS-13, and that's what they've done. Think about in Aurora, Colorado. I don't know if you know where that's kind of the south east portion of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty high rent area, really nice town. My brother-in-law actually lives there. But these apartment buildings, you can imagine, what do you think? $1,500 a month minimum, probably $2,000 a month. These huge apartment buildings, if there's 100 of them per apartment building, what is that? 15 grand or no, 150,000 a month that they'd be collecting. Yeah. And if they're just going around with fully loaded long rifles, and they're just walking into these apartments saying, you're not paying the rent to whoever your landowner is, you're paying the rent to us. So these guys are collecting massive amounts of money. They're hitting gun stores and jewelry stores now. And so these guys are getting better and better funded every day. Geez. Well, who didn't see this coming? I mean, as a cop, what do you think the Aurora police and the Denver police are doing?
Well, I mean, this goes back to they're not sending their best, like Trump said. I'm patched into a lot of gang networks just due to the nature of my work. And a lot of cops are all saying the same thing. They're starting to see a lot more gang tattoos from Venezuela, gang tattoos from El Salvador, MS-13 gang tattoos from Mexican mafia and some of the different cartel groups along the Mexican-U.S. border. They're starting to see a lot of practices that these gangs have. It's different than Bloods and Crips, who almost have like almost a code of honor. These guys just go right, all out. And they're starting to see a lot more of that. They're starting to see a lot more prostitution in the area, a lot more drug use in the area, a lot more drug sales in the area. They're starting to see violence like they've never seen before. They're starting to see heinous crimes like chopping up body parts and things like that. All things that have been done for decades with a lot of these Central American gangs. And this is what they're sending. This is what's coming into this country. And people fail to see that. They think, it's women and children. We're just taking women and children and families. No, you're not. Not anymore. That might have been what happened during the beginning of this, when a lot of families were fleeing. Now they're emptying out their jails. Like I said, a lot of the presidents of these countries who built jails and had use for them, but now want to empty them out to make room for whatever. hey, listen, we're going to let you out with the condition you start walking towards the border, going to America. That's what's happening. Trump said it, and we've seen it going on since the beginning of the Biden administration. I mean, listen, Kamala sees herself as this champion of women, but just in the past 3.5 years under her watch, we have a bona fide list of women who have been killed by these illegal migrants. So, if you're such a champion of women, why aren't you protecting these women? Why aren't you protecting small girls? Why aren't you protecting mothers and grandmothers? Why aren't you protecting American citizens who might not be strong enough to fight off a gang of attackers? Why are you letting this happen? And this happened under your watch. As much as you want to distance yourself from Biden, it's very telling that Biden spoke on the first night of the DNC and then was nowhere to be found for the other nights. If Kamala Harris is trying to distance herself from Biden and from his policies, she can't because she was right there. I'm so glad the questions being asked over and over again. Why aren't you doing any of these things now? Why aren't you instituting these policies that you're championing now? Why aren't you trying to build a wall now? Why aren't you trying to make people safe now? Why aren't you doing anything about the economy now? We're in a strange position where our economy isn't doing well. The dollar is weakening. People are having a harder time affording things like houses, cars. My wife and I went car shopping over this past weekend, and even the dealers were telling us this is a really bad time to buy a car right now because everything is just so much more expensive. We're in a bad position with all that going on, with the threat of international war. And now we've got these invaders coming in from our southern border, and no one wants to stop it. As a matter of fact, people are voting for this kind of thing to continue. We're in a bad place right now. And if people don't wake up, and that's why I tell people, people on our side, people who are more conservative, Republican, conservatarian, libertarian, now's the time to really start speaking up. You can't fall silent anymore. You can't say, well, I'm not going to speak because I don't want to offend anyone anymore. You have to get out there and you have to speak about this because this is coming to your doorstep, whether you realize it or not, whether you like it or not. This is coming to your doorstep. I live pretty far out in Suffolk County, and guess what? It's coming to my doorstep. I can look at it, I can track it, I can watch it. It's coming to my doorstep. So that's why I get involved because I have a 9-year-old daughter who I'm tasked with keeping her safe. I have a wife. I'm tasked with keeping her safe. All of us have families, have friends, have parents, have grandparents who we need to keep safe. And if you don't get out there and do something now, if you don't speak out against it now, if you don't take an active part in trying to keep your country safe, this is coming to your doorstep. And I wish people would really just wake up.
Oh, well, you got to wonder, eh, specifically in those apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. Again, it just blows. If you've never been there, and not necessarily you, Zeke, but just anybody that's listening or watching, if you've never been to Aurora, Colorado, this is one of the places that if you were, you got a job in Denver, that's one of the places you would look first because it's a beautiful little suburb of Denver. And the fact that these gangs are so brazen that they would just take over these apartment buildings, and they're essentially just fleecing all of these people. Um, they are getting more and more bold. So imagine what it's going to be like in a few years if this doesn't change direction. I mean,
Well, there
I don't
was
know. I don't know what it's going to take as far as a police action to actually root these guys out of there, but it's going to be ugly.
well, remember there was an incident I'd say about a year ago, a year to a couple months ago, where in New York City, a Venezuelan gang member shot a cop, and thankfully the cop didn't die. But the Venezuelan gang member said, "Yeah, in Venezuela we shoot cops. So if they're shooting cops, if they have no problem shooting cops, then that means they have no problem shooting anyone else. Even less of a problem shooting anyone else because this is what they did back in their home country. You know, we see what's going on all over the world. We see what's going on in England, in Germany, and other different places where they're allowing a lot of these migrants in. who have these different customs, who have no desire to assimilate to the custom of the country that they're moving into. And we're going to start seeing it a lot here if something isn't done. These people are coming over, they have a different mindset. Criminals already have a different mindset, but when you have criminals who really have no problem shooting and killing someone or hurting someone or doing whatever they want just to get their point across, just to get their motives and ideas and agendas across, that's when we have a really bad situation here. And like I said, we've already seen, at least off the top of my head, 6 different situations where women have been victimized directly by these gangs, because these gangs show up and they're just like, hey, listen, we're going to get someone. And there's probably countless stories, untold stories of people getting robbed, attacked by a lot of these migrants, because they come here and their first feeling is, hey, listen, I'm already here. I was a badass in my old country. I'm here. I'm going to continue to do so here in this country. And I'm seeing from a lot of police reports from across the country, that's exactly what's happening. Like you said, they took over this apartment complex in Colorado and started basically saying, hey, listen, you're going to pay me. You're not going to pay your rent. You're going to pay me. And my feeling is, if this is going on in Colorado, then it's going on in California. It's going on in Texas. It's going on in Atlanta. It's going on in Chicago. It's going on in New York. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of it. And they're going to have to report more and more of it, because it's going to be so egregious that you can't suppress this type of news story. But hey, listen, if you want to vote for joy, if you want to vote for a laugh, if you want to vote for someone who dances, if you want to vote for Mr. Kamala and his little dance that he does, and you want to vote for Stolen Valor Tim Walz because you want to feel good, then go ahead. But that good feeling isn't going to last too much longer.
Well, and frankly, don't complain when
and don't complain.
when things go to crap, because it's happening really fast. And it's again, with my discussion with Michael Yon just a few nights ago, I'm telling you, it's if you look at like Ireland, for example, there are so many immigrants in there now that they literally outnumber the male population. So they estimated that somewhere around 3 million people live in Ireland, but they've allowed almost 2 million immigrants into the country. And that's why basically they're just doing whatever they want. Well, we have 337 million people here in this country, and say worst case, 20 million have come in the last 2 or 3 years. But it's not just the numbers, it's also the quality and the type of person that's coming. And if these are mostly young military age men who basically have no problem with committing violence against cops, yeah, like you said, imagine what they would do against pretty much any kind of a regular citizen. So it's going to get worse, and it's kind of unfortunate that it's dragging right now where it is, but at least it's finally manifesting itself in areas and in quantities that I think people are starting to wake up.
I truly hope they do. I don't want to see anything happen to anyone. I don't want to see anyone get victimized. People forget the most important part of the immigration process. Back when my great grandmother did it back in the 1920s. She came from Anguilla. Back when my great grandfather did it back in the 1920s, he came from the Dominican Republic. There was a process to it. My brother-in-law is Scottish, from Scotland, and there's a process to it. You learn to respect the law. You learn to respect what's in front of you. You learn to respect the process, the due process of it all. Because you're abiding by the rules. You're filing the paperwork. You're saying, we're going to do this the right way. I'll take that 1,000 times over, 1,000,000 times over, than someone who just shows up and says, hey, let me in. And then you have the Democrats saying, yeah, let him in. You know what? And let's give him a phone. And let's give him a $10,000 debit card. And let's give him free housing. Let's buy out this hotel and put him in it. And we're not going to vet him or anything else like that. Or, we'll say we're going to vet him, but we're not really going to vet him. We'll give him a
Yeah.
free flight, and then he'll show up someplace else. And if he's in Texas or Florida, they'll say, "Hey, listen, this ain't our problem," and then they'll kick him off somewhere. And then now he's there, and he sees a bunch of his fellow gang members, and they show up. They form their own gang here in the United States, and they go out and they start victimizing people. You have to
Yeah.
learn to respect the process. And if you don't respect the process just to get into this country, you're not going to respect the laws. You're not going to respect the people here. And that's what we've gotten away from. You're so focused on, oh, we're going to save women and children with that false rhetoric. If you're going to save women and children, tell them to show up at the asylum centers and do it the right way. Don't just have these people showing up by the hundreds of thousands and, hey, listen, let's just let them in. We'll worry about the legal process, the due process later. Oh, do you promise to reach out to our office and do it the right way? Oh, you promise? Okay, great. Okay, let's put them on the plane now. This is basically what's happening. And this is why the border situation has become a legitimate safety issue in this country. Because right now, we have people coming into this country that haven't earned their place into this country. Being an American citizen is not a right, it's a privilege. And we need to go back to having it that way.
Well, I 100% agree with you, and my attitude is, for those of us that are, like you said, voting for this, not us, but the people that are voting for it, if you don't have the same attitude toward your own home that you have toward the border, then you have no credibility in my eyes. So if you're all okay about open borders, then you should take the locks off your house, and you should have
I've said that
no.
over and over again.
Yeah.
On my Instagram, I did a video not too far away. I said, hey, listen, if you are pro open borders and you want to vote for Kamala Harris, because if you're voting for Kamala Harris, then you're pro open borders. You know what? You should have to take at least 5 migrants into your house. Put them, and they have to sleep in your bed, not in the guest room. They're sleeping in your bed. They're using your bathroom. They're using your facilities. They're cooking out in your backyard. They're doing whatever they want in your house. But you should have to open up your home to, at the minimum, 5 of them. Because if you're voting for this, you should have to face the consequences of what you voted for. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, 100%. And these are people that you don't get to pick and choose. These are just random people that you put in there, and you just have no idea who they are. And
yeah,
pretty
men,
sure,
women, babies, everything. You got to take at least 5 in your house.
Yeah, well, based on the Martha's Vineyard record, I'm not sure that's going to really stand tall with them.
That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, they tolerated those migrants all of maybe 48 hours.
I don't think they even lasted that long.
Yeah.
Oh, we love you, thank you. Get them out of here. Get them back on the bus. No, but we love you. Well, so thank you so much for coming in. No, back on the bus. Back, no,
Yep.
Back on the bus. All of you. All right. But we love you. We love you. Somebody call Obama. Tell him to call whoever he's got to call. We love you. We love you so much. That was great.
Hey, so shifting gears a little bit here, with such a huge presence on X and Instagram, before Elon Musk bought X, how many times were the fact checkers basically shutting you down?
No, I didn't really get hit with a lot of community notes and fact checkers and things like that, just because everything I posted was based in the truth. That's the great part about being based in the truth. People get mad. People might report your stuff, but it's truthful. There's nothing you can say. You can't point to any part of my tweets and say, this is wrong. I think that's why I piss people off the way I do, because you can call me this, you can call me that name, you can go after my family, you can go after my looks, my appearance, anything, but you can't go after my facts, because those facts are bona fide, stone cold, written in stone, not going anywhere. So I think, people were really upset over that. I've gotten kicked off of TikTok a bunch of times because I hurt some feelings. Apparently TikTok, you can't hurt anyone's feelings, but I got kicked off of TikTok about 3 different times. I currently don't have a TikTok account, and I don't think I'm going back. We'll see what happens. But yeah, if it's a crime to hurt people's feelings, like in England, it's a crime to hurt people's feelings. Oh, I'm definitely getting felonies off of that. But telling the truth, thankfully, in Elon Musk's X, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, speaking of TikTok, I actually, so I just felt inspired to make a quick video, and I just gotten out of church. This is probably 3, 4 weeks ago. Just gotten out of church, and it was right around the 4th of July. And so we actually sang the Star Spangled Banner as the closing hymn, and I just thought that was awesome. I have a American flag right in my front yard, and so I posted up right in front of that flag and said, "Hey, this is awesome. It's amazing to be patriotic," and it just felt awesome about singing the Star Spangled Banner. And you know what? And I kind of pointed to my flag, like kind of like the one behind me. I said, "This is my flag. If you want to burn your own flag, you know what? I don't agree with it, but that's your right. But this is my flag. Don't come after my flag." And you know what? This is actually right after they had that big protest in Washington D.C. where they replaced the flag there at Union Station in D.C. with the
Right.
Palestinian flag. Yeah, that sat well with me. And so I posted this video on TikTok, and I couldn't believe some of the just vile people that were coming in there and basically just ripping. And I'm like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with singing the Star Spangled Banner in church. I don't get it, but
You know
yeah,
what? I'm at the point. If you go to a church and your pastor isn't a conservative, a right leaning conservative, I give him serious side eye, and I have no problem saying that. I made a X tweet, however you want to call it, last week sometime. And I said, "Where's Joel Osteen coming out against Kamala Harris? Where's TD Jakes coming out against Kamala Harris? They're the only thing they can really champion right now are women's reproductive rights in quotations, because it's all they've got. They keep bringing up the abortion issue. That's all they've got. That's the only leg they can stand on right now. And where's Joel Osteen saying, you know what, this isn't biblically right? Where's T.D. Jakes saying this isn't biblically right? Where are black pastors in Chicago, in New York, in L.A. standing up and saying abortion kills more black children than anything else? This isn't right. Where are all these church leaders, these pastors, these religious leaders coming out against this? Are you afraid you're going to piss off your congregation? Because if that's the case, then you have the wrong congregation. Are you afraid you're going to lose members in church? Well, then you just admit to me that you're doing this because you want that tithe money. So where are all these people? If you're standing up for right, if you're standing up for God, if you're standing up for life, if you're standing up for the soul of an unborn child, you should be speaking out against this. But if you're a type of Christian who's going to bow to his Democrat masters first and then praise God, then I don't trust you as a pastor. I'm not going to be led by you, and it explains why the church is in the position it's in right now.
yeah. Well, I think people naturally migrate to truth, and if they're preaching straight out of the Bible and it's like I said, it's God's word, then I agree. I think people are going to naturally migrate to that. But if you're not, then if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, then eventually I think people that they really feel it in their soul, and they're gonna fall away from that. But it's just sad to me that there's so many people that have fallen so far away from any kind of feelings like that are actually the righteous side. And boy, that video, um it was pretty crazy. But I mean, there was people starting to screenshot anything of my kids and stuff like that, and reposting it. And I'm sure you experience that kind of stuff all the time.
I experienced it tonight. Someone made a comment about my daughter, 9 years old, because I said I'm gonna raise my daughter with conservative, right-leaning Christian values, and that pisses off a lot of leftist Democrats. So
Yeah.
I saw a video where a mother said that she's going to raise her son to be a feminist, and she was pointing out all the different books she's going to make him read, and she was pointing out all the different ideologies she was going to teach him. And in the comments, everyone was applauding this and clapping this and saying, this is how a woman should be raising her son, to be a male feminist and all that. So you know what? If she's going to raise a male feminist, I'm going to raise a patriot. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. So,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that pisses you off, good. I'm glad it does.
Yeah. Well, the ironic thing is when some of these Venezuelan gangs come knocking at their door, they're not going to be looking for a male feminist. They're going to be
Are
looking.
you sure that they're not going to, find that male feminist who's in touch with his female side and wants to offer them a soy bowl of whatever male feminists eat?
Yeah, and I'm sure the Venezuelan and MS-13 gangs are going to respond well to the soy boys, that are basically, hey, you know what? Let's just not do this, okay? Yeah.
Listen, I'm appreciative of toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is what helps rescue people when they've been caught in hurricanes and floods. Toxic masculinity keeps people safe. Toxic masculinity are the guys who stand there, the dads who stand there, like when my daughter has her dance recitals, the dads that stand guard and stand watch over every child there who's dancing and make sure that, no perverts or freaks or anybody like that goes in there and starts harassing them. We're the dads who stand in front of the girls' locker room or the girls' changing room and make sure they're okay. Make sure no one's trying to take pictures of them or anything else like that. My daughter does dance competitions, and
I don't see that as toxic at all. And
I think to them, to the feminists, to the leftists, that's toxic masculinity. Is how dare you stand there and how dare you be this intimidating presence. Yeah, well, guess what? My daughter's one of the ones who's dancing. My daughter's friends are the ones who's dancing. My daughter's dance group are the ones who's dancing. There's other dance groups here who are dancing. So guess what? Nothing's going to happen on my watch. And there's a bunch of us dads who are all lined up saying nothing's going to happen while we're all standing here as well. So you know what? If that's toxic masculinity and you hate that, I'm glad. Because that says that's something wrong with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.